Welcome to Simply Excel. In this video we're going to take a look at the SUMIFS formula. SUMIFS works in a similar way to SUMIF, except you can specify multiple criteria ranges and multiple criteria. The other difference is that SUMIFS always uses a sum range, which is slightly different from how SUMIF works. Let's start by taking a look at how it's constructed. So I've typed in equals SUMIFS and opened our brackets, and you can see from the hint here that it's definitely expecting a sum range. That's not an optional parameter anymore like it is in SUMIF. We've then got criteria range 1, criteria 1, and then as we go through that we can see we've got criteria range 2, criteria 2, and so on and so forth. And should you want to, you can specify up to 127 criteria ranges and criteria. So let's take a look at some scenarios which we might use SUMIFS for. So let's say we want to look at the sales made in the Wales region in the month of March. So I type my formula in, equals SUMIFS. And first I'm going to specify my sum range, which is going to be my total order value. So I'm going to click on the top value in this column and then use Control, Shift and the down arrow to select my whole column. And then my criteria range is going to be my region to start with. So again, click on the top value in there, Control, Shift and down arrow to select all of those. And then I'm just going to specify Wales in here. In a minute we're going to look at how we'd specify that value in another cell and then reference it in the formula. And then our second criteria is going to be our month. So we'll select that range. And in here we're going to type March. Close our brackets. And we get our total value for the orders in Wales in March. Whereas in the SUMIF function, you can use the same range to reference and to sum up. In SUMIFs, we do have to specify it twice. Let me show you what I mean. If we use SUMIF, our sum range is optional, so we can specify our total value using Control Shift down to select those. A criteria of, we say, over £50. And that's all we need to specify because our sum range is an optional parameter in SUMIF. So that gets us our value. If we wanted to achieve the same thing using SUMIFs, we would still have to specify our sum range. So we can select our total value, and then we can just use that same range again as our criteria range 1, and then specify what our criteria is. And we get the same result. You may also have noticed in that example that we only use one criteria range and one criteria, even though we were using SUMIFs. And that's fine, we can just use it in the same way as SUMIF, just to evaluate it against a single criteria. Now let's take a look at using a cell reference as our criteria to evaluate against. So again, we type our SUMIFs formula. Our sum range, again, is going to be our total order value. Our first criteria range is going to be our region. And our first criteria is going to be the region we're going to type into this cell here. Our second criteria range is going to be our month. And our second criteria is going to be a month that we type in here. So until we specify a region and a month, we're not going to get any results back. We can type Wales in there and our month of March. And you'll see we get our total orders for Wales in March. And if we change either of these, we get our different results. Final thing to note about SUMIFs is your sum range must be the same size as your criteria range. If, for example, I change our criteria range 1 to just be top section of this column, so I'm no longer selecting that whole column, I'm just selecting cells A2 to 27. And if I try and update my formula, I get an error. I hope you found this overview of the SUMIFS formula useful. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more Excel tips. Thanks for watching.